Good morning and welcome to the News Hub. I'm Rolf Winkler. Don't envy House Speaker John Boehner in the fiscal cliff talks. The Obama administration isn't in a dealing mood, and, well, neither are conservative Republicans on Boehner's right flank. For the latest on fiscal cliff talks, we turn to Jerry Seib, Wall Street Journal's Washington bureau chief. Jerry, good morning.
Good morning.
So, the White House immediately rejected Boehner's plan yesterday, but conservatives to raise tax revenues $800 billion. But conservatives, they aren't happy either.
No, and it kind of illustrates the box that Speaker Boehner has been in actually for a year or two. A succession of deficit reduction talks. Look, the White House wants $1.6 trillion in revenues, mostly by raising tax rates on wealthiest Americans. That's a non-starter for Republicans, they say. So Speaker Boehner comes back with a counterproposal, half as much revenue, $800 billion without raising anybody's rates, getting that money just through closing loopholes and changing exemptions and that sort of thing. So it's revenues but no rates, and conservatives are saying that's not good enough for us. We don't want any additional tax revenues from any source, whether you raise rates or not. And so Speaker Boehner's got a problem, as does President Obama by extension, of course. And it's not clear how this gets resolved. You know, one of the things that I think is a certainty is that if there's a deal, some conservative Republicans are almost certainly going to vote against it because it will have to involve some tax revenues, if not rate increases. The key for Speaker Boehner is to get a deal that wins a majority of the Republicans in the House votes so that he can say, essentially, I carried my caucus with me into a deal with President Obama.
Okay, now, because he wasn't ever going to get a lot of his right flank. They're never going to vote for anything that raises significant tax revenue. So my question, I guess, is where does he go from here? I mean, it seems like if the party's fracturing, maybe he's maybe moving forward towards getting a compromise.
Well, it's not clear where anyone goes from here, to be honest. You know, there's an idea on the table, and it embodies the two things Speaker Boehner says he was willing to do in this conversation, to raise revenues and to shoot for a target of $800 billion in additional revenues over the next 10 years. He thinks that's his ceiling. The White House doesn't even think that's a floor to get started. So if Speaker Boehner has to go beyond that in some way, then obviously he loses more conservatives. I think if you took the deal that he presented this week, his compromise proposal, to the floor, he could win a majority of House Republicans to support that. There would, as you note, be some outliers who would say, no, we're not going to accept anything like that. And those are the voices you heard yesterday. The question is, if he has to go beyond that, and he probably will, to get a deal with the White House, how many other people fall away? And that's going to be a difficult situation. And the truth is, nobody knows for sure.
Underlining that fact, we just flashed on screen the polling data that shows that if a fiscal cliff, if we go over it, people really are going to blame Republicans, not the president. And that just really shows that he's an even smaller box, if you will. And I wonder, if you add all this up, it almost makes sense, just go over the cliff. Right? At that point, it's a tax decrease, no matter how you slice it.
Well, I think that actually may make more sense for Democrats than Republicans, because as you note, I think, and the Republicans will acknowledge this, that they're more likely to be blamed than the Democrats are if the country goes off the cliff. So they're going to be the bad guys in that drama. Not for everybody in the country, obviously, but for probably a majority of the country. Every poll kind of tells you that. So that's their first problem. The second problem is President Obama has a fair amount of leverage after you go off the cliff, because he then gets to negotiate a tax cut with Republicans, which is an easier thing to do than to negotiate tax increases, which is what we're trying to do now. The wild card out there is that sometime next year, February or March, the country bumps up again against that debt ceiling limit, and the president has to get Congress to give him permission to borrow more money. A lot of Republicans, I think, in the back of their minds think, well, that's when we regain some leverage in this situation. Between now and then, we're in a losing game. Then maybe we won't be so much.
Okay, Jerry Seib, thanks so much for joining us this morning.